Welcome back to Women's Wealth, The Middle Way, the show that answers your questions about work, money, and family. My name is Susan McGlory Michael, and I am the CEO and founder of Glen Eagle, a wealth management firm in New Jersey. Our guests today are Leah Nixon and Grace Nixon Peterson, sisters, co-founders of Tiny and Snail. They launched their greeting card company in 2017, and after Leah was paralyzed in a construction accident, it became their life raft. Welcome, Leah and Grace. We're thrilled to have you, and your story and your journey just is so intriguing that I'd love to begin with sisters. I always say the greatest gift, God gives you is a sister. And I've had one. And then I had a daughter and we didn't. She had three brothers and she didn't have a sister. And she always says, Mom, I didn't miss what I didn't have. But now she's married and has two daughters and she says, I get it. And I think that sums up the beauty of sisterhood. But can you each tell us how Tiny and Snail got started? And what made you both decide that you not only wanted to be sisters, but you wanted to work together?
At one point, I had been teaching in New Orleans, but then my husband, he's in the golf industry. And so we started to realize we didn't want to do long distance marriage. We were following his career kind of north and south. And suddenly I needed and wanted to jump into a more creative career. And so that led me to starting my own Etsy shop where I was hand illustrating greeting cards because I loved greeting cards forever. Lee and I have been doing art at the kitchen counter next to each other since we were old enough to hold a crayon. I was doing this work, but then all of the small, repetitive work on these cards really started to mess with my hand. Leah called me one day and she was like, Grace, I had this brain flash. I think we should join forces. Your hands are giving you trouble. You need to be able to scale this, and you can never scale a company of greeting cards where you're doing each one by hand. Leah has incredible skills, various digital Photoshop and websites, and she also went to 4 years of art school. So Leah is an impeccably trained artist. And she was like, you've always been the organized one. And what if I can be your hands and you can be my brain? So from there, we just thought, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And so from there, Tiny and Snail was born.
Not to interrupt, but how
Sure.
did you both come up with the name Tiny and Snail? I love it. I love the name, but I was intrigued on how do you come up with a name like that and just what's the significance of that name?
We were searching for a name for a week. I remember just phone call after phone call, tossing around ideas. But then I was scrolling Instagram and I came across a post. One of our family friends, their daughter, had drawn this little cartoon, The Adventures of Tiny and Snail. And when I saw that, I was just like, and because Grace has always loved snail mail, and I was building tiny houses at the time, and it just seemed to embody both of us. And we wanted this venture to be equally Grace and me. So we asked for permission to use that name, and that's how we
I
got
love it.
the
I love
cute
it. I
name.
love it. And significance for both of you, it brings you in. You launched the business in 2017, and then in 2018, everything changed. How did
Mhm.
your company help you both navigate such a really difficult and sad time? How did you begin to navigate through that?
That day, August 14th, we will remember forever. Now that Leah has lived and thrived, we call it Leah Lived Day, and we celebrate it every single year. That day when she was paralyzed and so close to death, we had no idea whether she would live or die. She was hanging by a thread. I flew in the very next day to our hometown and was with Leah and our family in the ICU for 29 days as she endured multiple surgeries and really scary times. She was intubated when I first came into the room. And when she came to after this really long surgery, she could only spell because she couldn't speak to us at that point. But she spelled into my hand, can I still draw? And I was able to say, yes, you
Oh my,
can.
I have tears in my eyes. That's so beautiful.
The second that my mom told me about the accident, that was I had two prayers. I said, God, you have to let her live and you have to let her use her hands. I just couldn't envision a world where Leah lived but was not able to do art. Like those two things just went hand in hand. And I knew Leah is meant to share her art with the world. She has such an incredible gift. The fact that was the first thing on her mind. And to be able to say yes. And if that telehandler would have fallen, if it would have fallen any higher, she would not have use of her hand. So it really
Wow.
was miraculous.
It is. And Leah, let me ask you, what's the main guiding force of the cards that you create?
They are full of heart and beauty, and they're really versatile. When I'm creating the cards, I'll think about special people in my life, and typically it starts with thinking about one person, and then as I'm working on it, I think about the other people that it could apply to, and then by the end of the card, I'm thinking about all those people in the world who might be receiving this card. That's the
It's,
intention behind every card.
and it's actually for me listening to this is it's such a beautiful, heart wrenching story. But then the guiding force, when you think about it, that you are touching lives and individuals that you have no idea what that one card or one
Mhm.
meaning can do within. It could bring people together. It can help them heal faster. It's just, I
Mhm.
don't know. I think it's like almost like your spiritual gift of putting that into cards so that you can help others in the world. So that it's
Definitely.
beautiful. And I'm going to ask each
Yeah,
of you this question.
one of the things that I woke up with in the ICU was like I was surrounded by so many friends and family and prayers, and I was so lucky to receive a lot of cards. The cards that I received, I felt like Tom Sawyer at my own funeral and getting to hear all of these lovely things about myself from people who you
Yeah.
might not hear otherwise. My heart just really aches for people who their pain wasn't as visible as mine, and so they wouldn't receive the support. It's then a mission of mine to help reach those people with our card.
That is beautiful. Yeah, it just
Mm,
and it comes from the soul. I can't tell you how impressed I am by that. The next question
mm.
I'm actually going to pose to both of you, so you can decide who wants to go first. But what have you learned about working together as sisters? And what makes it work? There's so many of our listeners that say, should I start a family business with my child, with my husband, with my sister? But what have you both learned on how working together is really not only feasible but successful and where it makes that partnership work. And you can decide who would like to go first.
It has been phenomenal for us to be sisters and have that relationship. I think for us, we've always been so close. We've been best friends basically ever since Leah was born. And so that has carried into the business. And when we started the business, we always had a very clear intention that the sisterhood and the relationship comes first. If the business ever starts to threaten that or undermine that, then sisterhood trumps that. And that was really important to me to just carry that. We definitely have some disagreements that pop up, but we've never had something so cataclysmic where it's like, oh my gosh, we need to choose the sisterhood over the business. But I think just having that intention has been important. Luckily, we're just very complementary in our skills. I tend to be more of a rule follower, a detailed person, a little more type A, and so I will take over things like our inventory management system and our bookkeeping. Even though I don't love that, I know that it needs to be done. My skills are more suited to that, so I do that. And then Leah has really taken the reins on the creative side and our marketing. And then we meet in the middle sometimes where we both have input on card ideas, and Leah will bounce her designs off of me and I'll give feedback. I think we have the same overarching vision for the company, which is super important to be aligned on those really important things. And we really share the same kind of aesthetic vision. So a lot of things are pretty easy because our relationship is so strong and we see things similarly. But then having
Yeah.
those complementary skills is also invaluable.
I can't agree with you more. And when they talk about like partnerships, they always say the gift is you grew up in the same household. So you know each other's inner fibers and being so that when you go to work, you know already. Whereas if you're starting a partnership with someone that's not within your immediate family, sometimes you have to learn and the learning curve is greater. That being said, you also know each other's weaknesses and strengths. The gift of family businesses is exactly what you're talking about, knowing it and understanding and also prioritizing we are sisters first and then it's business. I was really impressed by your answer. Thank you.
I think like being able to be honest with each other is super nice. Like I think that if you're always tiptoeing around your business partner, that's probably not ideal. Grace is able to give feedback in a way that it's just like constructive rather than like defeating. One of the quotes that was on my mind before we started Tiny and Snail, it's going to be on a card in a week. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's an
I
African
love
proverb. Yeah, and
that.
it was just like so present on my mind. And I just think that it's so hard to be a solo entrepreneur. And so I'm just really grateful that I just happen to be born next to a business partner.
You're so true, though, and I love that. I can't wait to see that card. I think you have your first person that's going to purchase that because that's beautiful, just beautiful.
Aw, I think you'll love
For,
it.
I think I will. I actually think I will because it's beautiful. For women entrepreneurs that are listening to us today and thinking about maybe sharing a creative business, starting a creative business and sharing it with someone or partnering with a family, what one piece of advice would each of you give them when they're beginning this journey? And maybe we'll start with Grace and then Leah, if you could also share just one
Yeah,
piece of
sounds good.
advice you would give this woman that's say they're driving their car right now and they're listening to you both and they're saying, no, I would love to partner or share. What would be one piece of advice you would give them to launch them on a more successful, smooth journey?
Have your patience and endurance ready. I think slow and steady growth is something that you want to celebrate and also that you want to expect. Sure, there might be those one in a million overnight type of successes, but for us, it has been slow and steady. And having that patience and endurance, I think, helps you during those startup years and helps you celebrate the wins even when they don't maybe feel like they're not where you ultimately want or need to be. You need to go a lot farther for this to be what you want it to be. I think, especially in the world of social media these days, like we see people wins or we see these huge numbers. And I just don't think that's typical to get right away, and that's okay. There are so many reasons why I actually look back and give thanks for the way that we grew, because ultimately one of our huge goals is just to keep doing this as long as we can. And I think the sustainability factor is huge in that, so that we don't get burnt out, so that we are building this the right way for us and having those strong foundations and being able to scale in a more methodical way has actually really helped us.
That's great. Leah, do you want to share one of your thoughts on this journey
Yeah, I
forward?
guess in tandem with Grace, the art that I'm making now is, I mean, I was an artist when we started the company, but I'm just so proud of all of the work that I've been able to make because of being in business. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs are perfectionists, and that's actually been one of my hardest struggles, I think, is overcoming that perfectionism and being able to put stuff out there even when I wish it could be better, but unless you put it out there, you're never going to be ready. And so, yes, your best work is yet to come, I think.
You both are just amazing. Grace and Leah, I can't thank you enough for being on this today. Not only have you accomplished something business wise, but what you've been through. And I think the lesson we all take, besides a successful company and besides working together and what you give back with your cards, I think each of us took today how you take adversity and a challenge and you change it and adjust it, and the journey becomes beautiful. And so I just want to thank both of you for being here today.
Thank you.
Oh,
This was
thank
such a
you.
nice conversation to have. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Women's Wealth, The Middle Way. Make sure to subscribe to us and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast app. Join us for new episodes every other Wednesday. See you in 2 weeks.